Welcome to Catlike Reflexes. Catlike Reflexes. Okay, that's a theme song. Today's episode is going to be about contrary opinions. With us...
No, it's not.
Today's episode is about jerks who don't know their place.
Yes, it is.
Yay!
No,
all right. With us today, we have Bryan Piitz. We have
already off the rails.
we have Brendan Main. Say hi.
Everybody.
There you go.
Hey.
And we got Drew Parent.
Yay!
The former PodKitten, now PodCat. Contrary opinions. Everyone's got an opinion, and sometimes it just runs contrary. I think that explains. No, if you have 6 million people who really, really, really like something, but you hate it, then well, that's that. And likewise, if they all hate something and you love it, well, then sometimes you're seen as a bit of an outcast. So I'm going to ask the panel today: what's it like to have a contrary opinion? Who wants to start?
I guess it's me.
There you go.
Because we were talking about it earlier, and I seem to be the one who, in this group, who has a lot of contrary opinions, although I'm sure I'm not the only one. It's lonely, not gonna lie. There's a lot of looking like a puppy in the rain, you know what I mean? Like, just like, people ostracize me. Like, I feel like the way Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. must have felt when he liked The Matrix 2.
Yeah, I mean, he had some unpopular opinions too. So I think that what we're saying, what you're saying is we are like, I mean, we're not like him. You're saying that we are better than Martin Luther King Jr.
Better in the sense that we have better taste in movies.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's all. That's all. That's the only thing.
I have to pick
I don't
my
know.
job
I don't
off the
know.
floor.
I don't know who would be possibly offended by that.
No one.
Contrary opinions. What's it like to have them? Brendan, over to you.
I mean, I think there are two types of contrary opinions that we can talk about, and one is incredibly easy, and one is difficult. And I think that the easy way to be a contrarian is to speak hellfire against something that is firmly ensconced within the public consciousness, something that it seems like everybody likes, and to come out against. Because inevitably, when I find people coming out against things, they have the sense that their position is more unique or more radical than it is. So if somebody doesn't like, you're like, you know what, I don't like James Cameron's Avatar.
Right.
And it's like, didn't everyone just go to see it and collectively not like it? Is this, like, I think that you're part of something. Or if somebody says, yeah, or oh, you know what some people like but I can't stand is Return of the Jedi. And we've talked about this before. So I'm like, oh, you invented not liking Return of the Jedi. It was you. You were the one person who hates, who can't get down behind Ewoks. So, but liking something that people don't like and making a case for it can be difficult. Either something that is known and reviled, or something that is misunderstood. So I think that we're talking about contrarianism, liking something that people don't like, or vice versa. It's always going to be harder to make a case for something positively, to say this is valuable and this is good. What do you think, Drew?
Well, yeah, you guys are you're right. You know, there are things everyone loves and hates. You know, for me, I'm a diehard Leaf fan. Everyone else in my family hates the Leafs, and I get.
Is it that they hate the Leaf? They're like, boo, they suck, or is it like we're Habs fans?
Yeah, so like my family, like my parents, my brother, my mom and dad, we're all Leaf fans. All my uncles and cousins, they're all Habs fans. And right now I'm getting ridiculed for them like crazy because...
These family members, do they live next to a nuclear plant or some kind of...
No,
farm?
they just live in Penetang and Midland, so, you know,
I actually
day passes.
This is
like up on the hill?
Yeah, day passes, pretty much. Yeah.
This isn't something that I have a lot of experience with, so deciding your fandom, is this like a Lady Gaga Born This Way kind of thing? Like it just happens?
There are only two reasons you're allowed to cheer for a certain sports team.
Right,
One, they are geographically closest to you.
Yep.
Or B, your father cheered for them. There are other exceptions, like if you move to a city. But again, you used to be geographically closest. So if you grew up somewhere and you moved, you can still have that team. But
Yeah.
But really, like, nobody cheers for the Leafs because they're the best team.
God, no.
People cheer for the Leafs because they are the closest team
Yep.
geographically, because sports is all about regionalism.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Go Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I don't know about anybody else here. I guess not everybody here is really into sports.
No.
To varying degrees. But
It should be stated I'm wearing a Leafs jersey as we speak.
As we speak.
Yes.
It is true.
And I think most people get their sport allegiances from their fathers.
Yes. Yeah.
Or from an older person.
Yeah.
Just they have to find some older person.
Yeah, like a brother or something. I'm not saying like every
you
dad.
go to a home, you begin knocking.
Could
on
be your
doors.
mother or a grandmother.
That's very equitable.
But I'm just saying, it comes from someone. Nobody just decides that they are a Houston Astros fan unless you just happen to be from Houston.
Okay.
We're getting away from it. I know.
Before we deviate into the next question, is being a Leafs fan a contrary opinion? In the sporting world, are you ostracized for being a Leafs fan in today's current day and age?
Some people would say yes.
Basically, anyone else who's not a
But
Leafs fan?
exactly, yeah.
I think that to have a contrary opinion, you have to be like a fan of Krav Maga or something. Be like, you know what sport I want to see more. What sport I want to see more on TV is the Krav Maga.
Yeah.
I gotta pay. I gotta pay a ridiculous amount of money for the the Malaysian ESPN. They bring it from the internet, and so I mean, like,
Is that sport that they play in Rambo where they kick a calf around?
spoiler warning, but no.
No. Oh, okay.
It's funny you mentioned Rambo. I'm going to get back to that in a minute.
All right.
But let's get to the selections here. So, Drew, what are your contrary opinions for recommendations? What do you like that no one else seems to?
Or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice
So
versa.
for me, like, one of the movies is the movie Waiting.
Oh, it was Ryan Reynolds?
It's an early Ryan Reynolds movie.
Okay.
It takes place in a restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the things that happen in said restaurant have scared the living crap out of people because they, at one point in the movie, dude hits on one of the waitresses, brings the food back. She goes literally to the line, the cook line's like, this person's a jerk. Do your worst to it. So the head chef is actually Dane Cook.
Oh, yeah.
He grabs the meal, shoves it down his pants, does a little bit of a thingy with it, puts it back on, someone else horks in it, someone rips some tubes, puts some tubes on it, bring it back out. Person enjoys the meal.
Question, do you like this movie?
I like it just because of the comedy that's in it.
Yeah. And
Not-
do most people not like it?
And a lot of people don't like it just because they get grossed out.
Oh, I see.
And it's a Dane Cook movie.
Okay.
No one likes Dane Cook.
Right. I don't mind Dane Cook.
Yeah, no, I don't mind him either.
I mean, I don't
go out of my way to watch his stuff either.
but I don't see what the big deal is about hating Dane
Drew,
Cook.
have you got a movie you hate that everyone likes? Or I open it up, not necessarily a
even
movie.
I don't-
Could be a book, game, comic
television
book, whatever.
show.
Sure, anything.
Person, opinion about religion,
There you go.
No,
opinion about Obama.
no, religion
Like,
stays out of my life. Thank you.
dig deep, dig deep.
You
So a TV show for me was Sequest.
wow.
I like Sequest.
A lot of the people I talked to, a lot of
Oh my
my
God.
other friends hated it. They just didn't like the sci-fi aspect of the show.
I hated it.
Thank you, Howie. Yeah, it's your opinion. But it was I enjoyed the show. It was when I was a kid, so it was one of those things like, okay, it's pretty cool to see a huge submarine that far into the. Well, was it even that far really into the future?
Sequest DSV.
was 20...
1993 to 1990.
No, but it was set.
No,
was
but
it-
when
was it
was
set?
it set?
Set in
when
the
was it
future.
set?
It was set in
set
90.
in 2032, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay,
so
we're getting there.
we're close, but
I remember when that came out. It was it came on at the same time It debuted at the same time as Superman, Lois and Clark.
That's right.
Yes,
Yes.
And it was on at the same time. And you had to. I would tape one and watch the other, and I had to decide which one I wanted to tape and which one I wanted to watch. And it usually was tape Superman and watch DSV, but then I quickly just stopped watching Superman because it was terrible.
It was terrible.
It was a bad-
And like the thing about, okay, it maybe the tip off is that they talk about it. The name of the show is Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
And not necessarily Superman. But people often bag on sort of like, oh, the terrible superhero shows of the '60s and '70s. They got it all wrong. But we made a new show in the '90s that was just terrible.
Yeah.
Just utterly gut-wrenchingly terrible.
Why does everyone want to write Superman poorly. Everyone
There
who
is
gets
no other way
Superman,
to write.
people get Superman and they want to like deconstruct him, but so even like Superman Returns, which contrarily I actually enjoyed, but in that movie they sort of try to deconstruct Superman and give him all these things to do. And in Lois and Clark, it was like, let's make a show with Superman, but really it's about his girlfriend and their relationship. Superman should be about punching robots in the face.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what Superman
And
is.
if you don't have the budget to have a robot that gets punched in the face, then maybe you don't have a Superman show.
Right.
That's right.
Look, everybody has the budget to shave a guy and turn him into Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And then punch him in the face. That costs nothing. We could do that here on the radio. Right?
Well, Howie's close anyways. He doesn't have that much hair left on his head.
Yeah, I mean, budget-wise, you'd be the choice, right? Other things being equal, that would cost us.
We're getting a note from...
Because you can't do better than the older Superman.
Which older? When you say older Superman, you mean
We're getting some
Reeves.
comments from the Peanut Gallery over
Yes.
here. We're not alone here in the studio.
Speak up. Say your piece,
Come on
Joe.
over here.
Well, I'm just it's Joe from Flooded Studios over
You
here.
gotta come a little closer.
I'm
That rumble is his desk chair.
it's true because I'm actually working at the moment.
Yeah. You couldn't see the air quotes he was just making.
That's right, working.
Yeah.
No, I just think that the way that they're kind of dissecting or dumbing down Superman and any of the superheroes and new stuff is because the way it was done in the past, with maybe the exception of some of the old Batman stuff, you can't really do any better than that. It's already as good as it gets.
Right.
So the reboot isn't so much to redo it, but to try to break it down and tell it a little bit differently, but not nearly as good as the original was.
Question: has there ever been a song that is explicitly or symbolically about Superman that hasn't sucked?
I do like the Crash Test Dummies.
The Superman theme, does that count?
No, it doesn't count because
that is
that just is Superman.
Yeah.
It doesn't use
Okay,
Superman
fair
as a
enough,
subject.
fair enough. So there's like Superman's Dead is pretty good.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so there's Superman's
Our Lady
Dead.
Peace.
That's Our Lady
Yeah.
Peace. You mentioned the Crash Test Dummies song, which is Superman never made any money.
Superman's song. It's called.
Yeah.
Did Superman ever save the world from Solomon Grundy?
Several times.
Okay, so
There's a new song from Nine Inch Nails off the recent album Hesitation Marks, and he makes reference to Superman in it. Mind you, that's making reference to Superman, not necessarily being a song about Superman. But
Right. And isn't there that song about kryptonite or
yeah.
Yeah,
3
3
doors
doors down.
Yeah.
It's called
Yeah.
Kryptonite.
If I go crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
would you still call it
And
kryptonite?
the Spin Doctors had a pocket full of kryptonite.
Okay.
That was a song they had.
Spin Doctors, I like
back
that.
in the while. Pocket full of kryptonite. That was my Spin Doctors impression.
That's
very,
bang
very
on.
You can send me impressions
I-
through.
I
You
have
can
a-
send me tips through PayPal.
I
Okay.
have a contrary opinion to Brian's singing. Joe, since you're now part of the conversation,
Clearly.
what do you like that no one else seems to?
What?
For those of you who don't know Joe, that is a loaded question.
Oh yes,
Yeah. Is there anything that you like that other people find like inexplicable that you would like something this much? People say, "Wow, you're really into something."
you're not-
that this
you're
is
not,
something I don't know. Like to me, I don't know.
You're not maybe calling me out on my crazy obsession for the Dave Matthews Band, are you?
Oh, is that? I thought it was Matthew Goodman.
No, it's down with the Dave Matthews Band.
I got confused because of the same.
You know, I wouldn't say that I'm the only one that likes it because they're the largest grossing touring band in the past 7 years.
Right.
But I definitely have an unhealthy obsession with them.
right.
Much probably to
I don't know
the
if it's
same.
unhealthy.
Well, to the same
You're not
degree.
dying.
Maybe
We're
I
all,
am.
Brian, we are every day we die a little.
Oh my god.
Every time I tell the story, you guys die a little.
I cringe. That's worth it right there.
I think I'm just about as crazed and as much a fan of Dave Matthews Band as Brian would be with James Bond.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I didn't send James Bond any jerseys
Well, that's because he wears suits
and is fictional.
and is fictional. True.
Oh, spoiler warning! I think that Joe raises a really good point, which is that there can be opinions, experiences that people can feel isolated in, but clearly, it's like being like, oh, I like Nickelback, but it's sort of like people must like Nickelback. They're
I like Nickelback.
They're huge.
Yeah.
So, or when you mentioned, oh, and Dane Cook, everyone hates Dane Cook.
Yeah.
actually everybody loves Dane Cook, or else Dane Cook wouldn't be enormous,
You're right,
right?
yeah.
And so I mean, but I think that I think that the people who have these experiences, they don't always come to the surface. So I mean, there are people who like these things casually or in passing, and so to be like, I like Dave Matthews, people are like, why would you like that? It's sort of like, he's huge, it's amazing,
Right.
he's really talented.
Well, see, in the Dave Matthews Band thing, the dislike for it is that people associate it with jam bands and a bunch of dirty hippies
Like
and
Fish or whatever.
Fish, or looking back even further, the Grateful Dead.
Right.
You know, you look at all the Deadheads who follow them around for shows upon shows on a tour. 2 years in a row, I've flown to Seattle to see them at the Gorge. I could just see them in New York or southern, like a little bit south of Ontario.
Yeah.
But I decided to fly out there because I have a large. Yeah, thanks, Bryan. I really like the band. But
Okay, but this raises the question then. Does having a contrary opinion, does that mean that you have to be a fan that you have an obsession with? Meaning, you really like Dave Matthews Band, but, I mean, balking on exactly how to word this
Does
one.
he like everything they put out just because he's a fan?
There
Is that
you
what
go.
mean?
Well,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, people could have trivial contrary opinions, but these things wash away, right? I think that ultimately the ones that we hold on to, the ones that we make a point of being contrary about, are the ones that matter to us. So I think that in all of them we have sort of some degree of investment. Because at heart, when you think we have a position that is contrary to other opinions, what you're saying is that the majority is wrong, or that there's something up, there's something hinky. It's sort of like, this is a book, because I mean, there's an injustice, and that injustice is an aesthetic one. This is a movie that people are getting wrong. This is a book that people are getting wrong. This is a book. This is an author that no one reads. This is a performer that nobody listens to or gives the credence to. Right? Something is off in the world when we are contrary to it.
I have an experience where I don't understand the other opinion. I remember quite clearly going in a theater on the opening weekend to watch The Matrix Reloaded.
Right.
The second Matrix movie. And of course the first one was a huge cultural hit. Like, everybody saw it and it was just really big. You okay there? Yeah. Oh. It was just huge, and so everybody was really excited about the sequels, and they were both coming out sort of at the same time, and I went to see it by myself. No one else was sort of around, but I really wanted to go. And I sat down in the theater, I was so excited, and the movie played, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I remember as it was finished and the credits were going up, I thought, oh my god, everybody is going to fucking love The Matrix Reloaded. Like, it's going to explode. Like, this is going to be the hugest thing. And instantly people just hated it. The opinion of just people I knew or people on the internet or reviewers, people were just like, this is a pile of garbage. And I couldn't understand because I liked it so much. And I still do. So it wasn't sort of like I just kind of got caught up in it and later on I was like, yeah, like that happens sometimes. I still like it. And I have, the box set of the Matrix movies. And a lot of people joke like, just pretend like the other two didn't happen. But I like the third one as well, but the second one, The Matrix Reloaded, is my favorite of the three, even above the first one.
Right.
And if I'm just sort of like sitting at home on an afternoon and I want to just pop in some movie or whatever, and I pick up the Matrix box, that's the one I pick out, usually. So,
all right, I have a very interesting scenario which I've adopted, which is to go and find the bad movies that are listed on Rotten Tomatoes and as many aggregates as you can find for movie reviews.
Sure.
I like to go and find those reviews and look for, and we're talking like 4%, quality ratings, and I like to look at why that 4% said it was a good film. And I did this with Rambo 5.
There's a Rambo 5?
I think there was 4 or 5.
Four.
The last one to come out, not the one that's upcoming.
That's the one where he's fighting against diabetes, right?
That's the one where he's fighting in the back of a truck with a Gatling gun against diabetes.
That's Rambo 4.
And it was universally panned, except on Rotten Tomatoes, where there was like one person, I can't remember who it was, who said, no, here's the thing, you gotta watch this film, and sure, you gotta trudge through it, and it's a whole whack-a-hooey, until the end, and then this is why Rambo is doing the things he does. And if you go into the movie watching why Rambo does the things he does at that moment, it actually becomes a very good film. So I was like, all right, well, you know what? Armed with that knowledge that this person on the internet has provided, I'm going to go in. And sure enough, it was an amazing film. I was thoroughly impressed by that Rambo film. I couldn't believe it. It was a contrary opinion that this person on the internet had that I looked into and said, yeah, this is great. And now I do that with almost any movie I come across. If it's panned, I look for specifically the people who gave it good, positive, glowing reviews just to see what they saw in it. And sometimes it actually does pan out.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, it's funny you mentioned Rambo because I didn't watch the Rambo movies when I was a kid. My mom kind of didn't let me watch like really violent movies. Because she cared about me, I guess, but it just meant that I didn't know what people were talking about for 20 years. Anyway, I decided to watch. I was off work a few years ago for a little while, and I decided to catch up on all these movies from the 80s that I missed, and I watched all 4 Rambo movies in a row.
Okay.
Including the one that had just come out. I think that movie had recently come out. And watching them in a row, Rambo 4 was really interesting because it ties into the other films, whereas sort of like First Blood, the first movie, is about Rambo kind of wandering around, and then he gets back into his warlike ways. And Rambo 4 is kind of a deconstruction about, like Derek said, why he does the things he does, and it has a nice ending that sort of fits nicely with the first film, I thought. And it's I agree with you. It has its moments, but I can see there's a reaction that a lot of people have to those kinds of movies, and it's not just Rambo, but any sort of what do you call like an action film, and people just sort of, a lot of people will automatically say, well, it's just a dumb action movie, so I automatically don't like it. But it's a genre, and that's action is part of it. And
that's kind of what happened with Transformers 4.
Yeah,
Age of Extinction.
Okay.
Everyone kind of just panned it because, well,
it's another
Transformers movie. They got rid of Shia LaBeouf. They went with Marky Mark instead, and everyone's just like, oh, it's another crappy Transformers movie. Who's gonna really go watch it? I enjoyed it. I went to the theater. I sat there, had a great time watching it.
Yeah.
But now, conversely, talking about, it's just another Rambo movie, or it's just whatever, or with the genres, is the Taken.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That whole style of movie. I guess The Equalizer was the most recent kind of variant of it. I think they're fantastic. They're certainly not fantastically written, or a quality award-winning film, but just something that you can enjoy, and not everybody would agree with that.
And sometimes a movie just talks to you, like you feel like nobody else got it, but there's a nugget in there that just seems like it was made for you, and when people dislike it, sometimes you can take it personally.
I think that when people talk about art, often they're talking about aesthetics, and when we talk about aesthetics, we're talking about responding to art. And actually, we do have a healthy conversation about aesthetics. We do, and it's deeply tied up in culture, right? So there are movies that you're expected to like, and there are movies that you're expected to dislike, and then across the board, right? And this could be said for any medium, but I think that it's less important to get them all right, to like the right movies and hate the wrong movies. If you look at the history of criticism, some of the most interesting critics got some movies wrong, terribly wrong, or whatever genre. I mean, when you go back and read Pauline Kael, she's kind of 60% of the time she's on the beat, and then every now and then she's just off. I think a better way to think about these things, when you mentioned that a movie being made for you and respond to that, I mean, there is something personal about art. And if we can get something out of it, that's better than everything. If we can get something out of it, and it changes us in some way, that is so much more important than aggregate scores. That's so much more important than getting it right. I mean, shouldn't we be moved by these things? Shouldn't they give us something if possible? I mean, you get it where you can. I mean, maybe that's something that is critically understood as good, but maybe not.
Well, it seems that everyone around here is nodding with Brendan's statement except myself, so I suppose I have a contrary opinion to that.
Go for it.
We're going to wrap it up. on that note. We've got about a minute left for everyone, so really quickly, outside of movies, because we've been dealing with movies and television, games or books, anyone want to throw out some quick contrary faves?
Oh,
I know.
games and books. I'm going to go contrary to you and talk about a television show. And it's not fair. It's a show I haven't seen. There's Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
I haven't seen it, and it's not the only show that does this, but people say, like, oh my god, this is the best show of all time. I love this show, and it's so artistic, and it's so well written. And I say, well, isn't it ironic then that show that you think is the best and so well written also happens to be the one with the really graphic violence and all the nudity? If you like another movie that has graphic violence and nudity, you're sort of expected to hate it. But for some reason, Game of Thrones kind of gets a pass because I guess they have accents. So I haven't seen it. I'm sure it's very
dragons.
good. But
You're forgetting the dragons. They
yeah,
have
that's
dragons
my
too.
contrary opinion.
All right, Drew.
On Game of Thrones.
Game, book, comic book.
Game book.
Do you like Stormwatch? Image 1993?
Never read it.
You were holding it earlier.
Stormwatch.
Come on. What do you like? What do you like?
I don't know. Come back to me.
All
Or
right.
somebody else.
Brennan.
If you saw the movie AI
Ooh.
and you hated it, watch it again. But this time, anytime that the main character says he loves someone, don't believe it. He's just a robot. He can't love. Watch it again. I read this beautiful review by Roger Ebert, a great movies review, and he basically said, I was wrong about AI. I watched it again. It does have this hint of Kubrick. It's about alienation. Don't believe him when he says that he can love people. He can't. He doesn't know what it's like. And I think he cracked the code. Since then, I've seen there has been this sort of slow tide. People saying, you know what's good, you know what's wonderful, you know what's moving, you know what's beautiful. AI. Not AI, what a piece of shit. AI, what was it, Aliens at the end? AI, I hate Haley Joel McHale Osmond. Osmond Joe? What is he? Haley Joel McHale? Haley Joel.
Osmond.
Donnie and... So I...
We'll dogpile that one up for you.
Similarly, people hated Contact and when it came out for what? For daring to be hard science fiction, for daring to have.
I think that's why.
I mean,
hard sci-fi gets a knock.
Yeah, when people say, "Oh, science fiction there's no place for spiritualism in sci-fi." Well, the answer to that question is, first off, it's materialist, not spiritualist. Second off, absolutely, science fiction has spiritualist themes. If you say that science fiction can't be spiritualist, what about Arthur C. Clarke? What about guys like Philip K. Dick? What about all these guys who are incredibly interested in these types of things?
I don't know. Dune never got made into a miniseries. Joe, what do you think? Contrary opinions.
Not so much contrary opinion, but getting back to what we talked about quickly earlier, when I kind of came into the conversation.
Get into it.
About the Superman stuff, is I just recently saw the most kind of recent reboot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
And it was garbage. Because they did it right the first time. Much like the old Superman is better than the new stuff, they have to kind of turn it around.
So when you say the Turtles were right in the first time, you mean when they all had red masks and it killed people and Baxter Stockman was a black guy running around?
I think he's talking about the 1987 movie that came out with the rubber masks.
Was it 1987?
When Corey
I'll get into
Feldman
it
was
later.
one of
Anyway,
the, with Donatello?
it was perfect.
I
As far as
agree.
I'm concerned,
Yeah.
that Ninja Turtles is perfect.
It caught the magic.
And quickly to end that, Spider-Man, all the new kind of reboots, they changed them to modernize them. Whether it's bit by a genetically altered spider versus a radioactive spider, the Ninja Turtles were a science experiment in a lab, not an accident with ooze. All that stuff.
Who drives ooze around?
Drew, we're going to come back to
We're
you.
going to come back to me again.
Yeah?
Great. I don't know. I really don't have...
Oh, you like Bucky, and that right there is a
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah,
we're going to end it on that.
Bucky.
I actually love everything and everyone. I have zero
That's a
contrary
lie.
opinions.
It's true.
Yeah.
Incredibly magnanimous.
Yeah.
You're like Jesus.
He is. We say like, but that may mean better.
Shorter.
Yeah.
Older.
Perhaps older. I'm over that hill. All
You gotta
right.
think yourself, maybe you're doing some, good things that you do.
Catlike.reflexes.com, on Twitter at CRPodcast. Tune in, draw us as best you can, comment below, comment to the side, favorite, tweet, you know how it all
We're
works.
listening.
Yeah. You get in contact with
We're
us,
always
we'll get in
listening.
contact with you. Until next time,
Everyone's listening.
this is Joe Beausoleil from Flooded Studios as the guest Pod Kitten. We've got Drew Parent, we've got Brennan Mean, we've got Brian Piitz, and me, Derek Howard, signing off. Let's do the song, boys.
It's a theme
Catlike
Reflexes.
Reflexes.
That's the theme song.
That worked.
That is the theme
That
song.
was brilliant.